NASCAR is a very weird and often mysterious sport. Over time, drivers and fans alike have developed superstitions to explain away some of the puzzling events around NASCAR. To kickstart this journey, we're going to dive into one of the darkest of them all, peanuts. Okay, I know what you're thinking. Peanuts? Really? Many NASCAR drivers, past and present, completely avoid peanuts while they're at the racetrack or even altogether. This goes much deeper than you'd think, and many of your NASCAR greats, including Junior Johnson, David Pearson, and Dale Earnhardt himself, all believed firmly in the superstition. The roots of this belief originated in the 1930s. Auto racing events were mainly held on fairgrounds, where many different events were held and many vendors were set up, including, you guessed it, peanut vendors. The peanut shells were often more of an irritant to the crews and drivers, as they typically had to work on their cars under the grandstands. The fans would eat their peanuts in the grandstands, toss their shells on the ground, and naturally they would fall through the stands and end up on the cars and the drivers. This irritant would become more of a fear, mainly due to two incidents in open cockpit races in 1937. On May 16th, at Langhorne Speedway, there was a terrible crash in the feature race. Frank Bailey would swerve to avoid hitting Bud Henderson's car, but crashed into the fence on the outside. Just behind it, a number of spectators were seated there. Several spectators would be injured, and 3 would tragically die. Frank Bailey would survive, but with some injuries. How does this tie back to the peanut thing? Well, peanut shells were found in the cockpit of his car. On September 27th of the same year, during a race at the Nashville State Fair, there were 4 or 5 cars involved in a multi-car crash. The lead car began skidding while trying to lap the second-place car, and the 2 collided. 2 piled up in the melee, resulting in the death of Howard Cox. What was found in the grill of Cox's car? Once again, peanut shells. There was an honest debate starting whether the peanut shells were the sole reason for all 4 of these deaths. Did their shells make parts malfunction? Did eating peanuts cause drivers to be less focused? Was this just a coincidence? Whatever the details were, the conclusion to many was simple. Peanuts plus racing equals bad wrecks and people get hurt. Another leading reasoning for the superstition was Junior Johnson. Supposedly, one of his crew members was eating peanuts when his engine blew. That's all there is to that aspect, so do what you want with that information. On to our next topic, which is a little more well known. That is the superstition of the number 13. This one is a little more straightforward. The number 13 just may be the least successful car number in NASCAR's history. We know that NASCAR car numbers tend to be lower value numbers. You could probably think of a NASCAR great in every car number from 1 to 24, except for number 13. Anything stick out about these stats? You would be correct if you said anything about the car number 13. In 653 tries, it only has 1 win and 37 top 10s. The one and only win came in 1963 at the hands of Johnny Rutherford. This was notably a Daytona qualifier race at a time when those counted as points-paying legitimate wins. Not to mention, this car was prepared by Smokey Yunick. I think it's super fitting that it took Smokey, one of the greatest minds in NASCAR's history, to break the 13 curse. Another superstition that has to do with the car's exterior design is the color green. This once again doesn't originate in NASCAR, but has carried over into the sport over time. And yet again, this has a tragic beginning. Lee Oldfield, a member of the Automotive Hall of Fame, was involved in a largely forgotten crash in 1911 at the New York State Fair. In the 43rd mile of the 500-mile race, Lee's tire blew and he went through the guardrail and into a crowd of 60,000 spectators. Lee was thrown from his car and had many serious injuries, including broken ribs. The worst was the injuries to the crowd. 9 people lost their lives, with 14 others being seriously injured. 10 years later, Gaston Chevrolet died in a race in Beverly Hills. He was the brother of Louis Chevrolet, the founder of the car company. His car was also green. These 2 incidents are credited to be the reason for this superstition. In more recent times, many fans used this idea as an explanation for Dale Jr.'s drop in performance after switching from DEI to Hendrick and Danica Patrick's entire career. Let's end the video with NASCAR's most divided superstition, which is still debated and used today, and that is the idea of racing with lucky charms. You probably see the headlines a couple times throughout the year, where drivers will race with a special artifact given to them by a kid, a superfan, or something of that sort. Why this is so divided is because some drivers love racing with them, like Tony Stewart, are outspoken about never racing with them. Pete DiPaolo, who was the winner of the 1925 Indianapolis 500 and owner of the first Ford team in NASCAR, was infamous for his lucky charm. He raced with his son's shoes tied beneath his car throughout his career. Legend has it that he took off the shoes only once. What happened in that race? In 1934 at Spain, Pete was involved in a crash that left him in a coma for 11 weeks. He retired, made a recovery, and stayed involved in racing until his death in 1980. Here is a completely unrelated story about Pete that is so interesting I just had to include it. It may very well be a complete farce, but according to many sources, just a few months before his career-ending wreck, Pete was racing in Berlin. Two connecting rods flew off his car and narrowly missed the press box that Adolf Hitler was sitting in. Now, it isn't super far-fetched, considering he was a huge racing fan and directly invested money in Mercedes-Benz for propaganda reasons, and yeah, that's a rabbit hole for a completely different video. To end the video on a positive note, after yet another rather tragic and depressing video, let's look at some of the positive stories that have come from the other side of racing with lucky charms. The most infamous would have to be Dale Earnhardt when he won the 1998 Daytona 500. It's pretty well documented all of Senior's misfortunes in the Daytona 500 leading up to that race, but something was different about the lead up to the 1998 Daytona 500 specifically. 6-year-old Wessa Miller was a Dale Earnhardt superfan with spina bifida. Through the Make-A-Wish Foundation, Wessa was able to meet Dale in Daytona. Her parting gift to him was a single penny. Dale took the penny and glued it to his dashboard and raced with it and ultimately won. The penny is still in Earnhardt's Daytona 500 winning car in the Richard Childress Racing Museum. A much more recent example is the 2016 season finale, where Hall of Fame drag racer Darrell Gwynn gave Martin Truex Jr. a lucky rabbit's foot just 2 days before the championship race at Homestead. Even more poetic was the fact that Truex led 78 laps exactly that day en route to his first championship. That's not all the power of the rabbit's foot though, as it was given to Darrell Gwynn in 1989 by a Los Angeles firefighter. He ran with it in his dragster at the 1989 U.S. Nationals in Indy and ended up qualifying first, setting the national record, and won the title. He dominated the Keystone Nationals in Pennsylvania the next week, and the Gatorade Nationals in 1990, riding along with the rabbit's foot. In April of 1990, Gwynn was racing without the rabbit's foot when he suffered life-threatening injuries that has left him in a wheelchair since then. After I got hurt, the rabbit's foot meant so much to me, Gwynn told NBC Sports. I took it out of my car and put it in my trophy case. This week I was going out of my garage, I saw the rabbit's foot there, and I said, I know somebody who can use that this weekend. He's been running good all year long, but he just needs some luck here because that's the way the format is. It's all down to one race. I took it out of the trophy case after 27 years. Whether this rabbit's foot contributed to this win or not, the fact is that he won, and to me, that's all I wanted to see happen this weekend. Anyways guys, that's it for this video. I hope you did enjoy. If you did enjoy, make sure you leave a like and subscribe, and comment down below. Anyways guys, I'll see you in the next video. Peace.